morning, my friends. Becky Stromsdorfer here, homeschool mom to 5 children for over 20 years, grandma to 1, and here to help you homeschool your children. We are talking today about curriculum providers. I'm going to give it just a minute as people are coming in because it's really important information and I don't want you to miss it. But if you are looking for help with any of your homeschooling needs, resources, that kind of thing, please make sure you come in and join us. I am here to help you. After homeschooling 5 children, I've got 2 that are done. I've got 1 who's practically done, and I've got, hi, Dammy. Dammy? I don't have my glasses on. I'm sorry, I can't tell. And we've got 2 more at home that we're still homeschooling, a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they are, and we're still going. It gets easier, by the way, for those of you homeschooling little kids. Little kids are hard to homeschool. Homeschooling young children is harder than homeschooling the teens. So, hi, good morning, Natalie. So when you are homeschooling your children, when you public school, okay, the early years are early, easy. You send them to school, not a big deal. They come back, okay. But the later years are hard. There's a lot of high school drama. There's a lot of difficulty. The emotional state is harder. When you homeschool, it's actually the reverse. The emotional state happens at a young age. Why? Because young children actually should be dealing with their emotions early on and then later dealing with the education. It should switch. And so children, when you're homeschooling and they're little, it's a lot of work because you're teaching them to read, write, math, right? Once your children are reading on their own and writing on their own, homeschooling becomes easier. And then as they become 11 to 12 and they've got the habits down, oh my gosh, homeschooling is a piece of cake, you guys. And you're not dealing with the same drama that your children would be dealing with if they were in public school. So homeschooling starts out hard and gets easier every year. Public school starts out easy and gets harder every year. So just know that going in and how that works, and know that if you pay that price early on, it will come back. My children are now older now, and God, homeschooling is a piece of cake now, which is why I can build this for you guys. Homeschooling special needs. High school daughters. Ooh, wow. So yeah, do you need any help with that, Natalie? Are you struggling with any resources, or are you okay? Do you have it all worked out? Do you have your curriculum set up? Do you have your program set up? Or do you need some resources I can maybe lead you to? Let me know. Fun times, no kidding. Yeah, public schools are bad, and they're not getting better, guys. They're not. People ask, what is the solution to fixing schools? Take it out of the government's hands and put it back in the parents' hands. That's the only way it's going to get fixed, ever. Yeah, learning as we go is so true. Homeschooling now 20 years, I'm still learning something new, and every child's so different. I have to do completely different schedules, completely different ideas. And so we did this. The first year I homeschooled, I'm like, I'm going to buy this curriculum and my kids are all going to love me and I'm going to be the perfect teacher and they're all going to sit down and we're going to have this beautiful little class. Yeah, I built a little homeschool room, everything. Yeah, that worked for about 2 weeks before I'm in tears and the kids are in tears and everybody hates everybody and we're all fighting and I'm like pulling my hair out. So turns out that my first child did like the curriculum, but she really didn't like the structure of it. So then we go in and bring in child number 2. Well, child number 2 is hated whatever I bought, would not use, it was a fight. So then I had to find a new curriculum, new idea for her. Great. Well, then there was child number 3 and he didn't like the first 2. So now I got a new curriculum for number 3. Guys, this gets expensive, exhausting, extremely stressful. And so my homeschool village was born. My homeschool village is a homeschool buffet of all resources. So you only need one resource, one place to find all your resources. And then once you're in there, it's a buffet. You can go in and build each child's plate according to each child's needs and tastes and likes. Instead of buying a curriculum for this child, the curriculum for this child, you will go broke so fast. So instead, we created what we wanted to have when we started homeschooling 20 years ago, which is a buffet where I can go in literally to my homeschool village's resources and go, okay, child A needs this, 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 and this. Here's your plate. Go get to work. Child B needs that. Here's your plate. Go get to work. And that's how it works. And so it's freed up my time. I wish we had created this 10 years ago. My life would have been so much easier. I'm helping my son correct his science work right now. Love it. Hi, Charlie. It has been forever. Where you been, girl? Oh my goodness. I'm trying to go. I say I try because I still have a life. I have children, things happen, but I try to go live 10 o'clock here on TikTok on Tuesdays. I will be going now live on TikTok here in the evening tonight. So say like 5 Mountain Time, which is about 7, maybe later. I haven't figured that out yet, but it'll be tonight. But yeah, good to see you. Where you been? How you doing? Okay. So come on in. Thank you for the hearts. So sweet. So how is your homeschooling life doing? So I just explained, younger is harder than older. Homeschooling teens I love, guys. I love homeschooling teens. And the relationship we have, my teenagers are my best friends. They are so cool. And they're my biggest cheerleaders, and I'm theirs. And it's really a cool opportunity. When they're little, you're more the teacher, but as they get older, it slowly shifts to a partnership of education. And my children now choose their own education, and I help fund it, drive them to it, whatever they need to do. But now they drive themselves to their education. History after lunch, and then we are done for the day. Nice. What history are you doing right now? I got hiccups, guys. Excuse me. Yeah, tell us what your history is doing right now, Jennifer Harley, you cute lady. Okay, so we're going to talk about curriculum providers today. Curriculum providers are companies that have contracted with the government. So a public school will get $5,000 to $7,000 per student per year to pay for that school. A curriculum provider comes in and says, okay, government, give me that $7,000 and I will make sure the kids get educated that are homeschooled. And then they go to us and say, guys, come sign up with me and I'll give you $2,000 of it to put towards your classes, towards resources. So the middleman is making $5,000. We're getting $2,000 to help, and they're reporting for us to the government, or, well, and if you do that, so you get that money. They don't hand it to you in cash. They basically reimburse you or pay courses for you up until you're done. And then they pocket the rest to run this business. Honestly, I think it's a great business model. I also think it should be illegal, but it's also an option. So if you're looking for curriculum providers in your area to help you with those extra costs of homeschooling, go get our roadmap, the free roadmap. Go click on the link in the bio. It's totally free. That roadmap has every state and what curriculum providers are in that state. I'm in Utah and we have 2. It's Harmony and My Tech High. And I have used both. I don't like either. I use them when we have a year that's a little tighter financially, and I don't use them if I don't have to. But that's just because I don't like answering to people on what we do. So last night I was up until midnight because I forgot to do my reporting, because this year we are using some of those funds, and I had to get that done. So first year doing full-time schooling, my severely dyslexic 8th grader, any suggestions? Yes. Okay, number one, because I have a dyslexic child. And so I did all this years ago. Number one, go get the book called The Dyslexic Advantage. It's on Amazon. It literally will go through and teach you all the benefits of the brain that a child has that has dyslexia. So dyslexia looks like this big bad thing until you read this book, and then you find out that dyslexia actually is a beautiful thing once you learn how to use it. And it just shows you the way dyslexic people think and how to better teach them because of it and their strengths. It's a beautiful book. Beautiful. Read it out loud to your child. Let them see that dyslexia is actually a blessing and how to use it, and it'll help you both. So The Dyslexic Advantage. Number two, I don't know how they're reading in a book, but white on black writing with a white background is really hard for them. It moves. I have a daughter who says, I can't read books. It moves. So we got her an iPad where she could get the book, but she could change the background color to what works for her, and she can make the print bigger. She couldn't learn note reading because to her the notes were moving. So I took all of her books, took them to a photocopy shop, redid them all, copied them on blue paper and blew it up, and then she could learn her notes. So it's really about how they see it. So I'm a dyslexic as well and read that book. It's wonderful. Oh, you have read that book. I'm so glad to hear that. Nobody's ever read that book when I tell them about it. So I love that you've read it. Make sure that you read it to your child. Make sure she sees, or he, was it, I can't remember if you said daughter. Make sure your child is hearing the good things in that book. I read it out loud to my second child, who was when we were dealing with this, and she came out, like, when we started reading it, she had this self-esteem, like she can't do it, she was dumb, she could, and it broke my heart. So we read that book out loud, and not all of it, like I would go and be like, hey, check out this part about you, it's just like you. And she came out thinking, oh my gosh, I'm brilliant. And I thought, and her confidence level went up, and she started doing better. She now writes on her own. She wouldn't even write till she was 12. She barely read at 10. She wouldn't write till 12. And she's now 20, and she just showed me her journal the other day. It is gorgeous. It's like beautifully written and organized and all put together. And now she writes chapter books, and she just needed more time. So whereas my other children who didn't deal with that, yeah, they read and wrote earlier, but she took it on as a challenge, and now it's her biggest strength, which I think is a beautiful thing. We use the color stencil bookmark thing. It blocks out everything but what you're reading. Yeah. And that's really nice too. And they have different colors. So if you're taking in my homeschool membership, we have a program called Typesy. Typesy.com. Love it, guys, for typing. Don't use free typing programs. Your children will be exposed to porn. Use paid typing programs. And if you want a really good one, Typesy.com, which is who we have as part of our membership, they go in and you can actually change it. Your kids can change their fonts as they're typing. They can change their background color. They can change the sizes. They can go in and change that. You can even change the language. So your children are learning languages as they're learning to type. All that. Very cool. We're going to try the Barton reading system. Oh, I don't know that one. Let me know how it goes. I haven't heard of that one. I tried multiple reading systems with my children. What I discovered was, back in a minute, but my children have always learned best on my lap and me pointing. I've tried all kinds of things. My oldest child learned on starfall.com, taught herself. She was like, I'm not waiting for you, Mom. I was having too many kids. And she's like, I'm just doing it on my own. She did it on Starfall. All my other children, we just read together every day. And I would point, and pretty soon I would say, okay, can you do the thes? Yeah. Okay, can you do the ands? Yeah. And pretty soon they just started picking it up. So it's really about just spending time on Mom's or Dad's lap. My husband loves reading to the kids. And it's about teaching them to love stories, and your children will do the rest. That encourage you because I still have a struggling reader and writer. Yeah. And this struggling reading and writers. So my third child can read. He reads fine. It took him a long time because he just wasn't interested. So he will read now on what he's interested in, but I still can't get him to pull up a chapter book and just read it. Now, the kid's ADHD, and he will work on a motorcycle all day long, but to get him to read a book, but he can. At least he can if he wants to. So 4 of my 5 children love to read. And that's because we spent a lot of time at the library. I never controlled what they read. It had to be appropriate. You can find a lot of crappy books in the teen section. So we did make sure it was appropriate. We'd talk to them about what they're reading. Sometimes I would read what they were reading just to know. But I let them read anything and everything they wanted. We listened to audiobooks all the time. Their dad reads out loud to them constantly. Even still, when my husband will pull out a book, if the older adult children are home, they'll still go and get Legos or coloring book and sit down and listen to Dad read. It's turned into like this therapeutic healing session. Doesn't matter what he's reading. We all have fallen in love with Dad's voice. When my husband reads, we all just go, to the point where he had to read me through all of our labors. He would just read, and his voice was so therapeutic. And they have fallen in love with their father's voice because he reads out loud. They've fallen in love with stories because we listen to them a lot. And it doesn't have to be truth, and it doesn't have to always be like his story. I'm going to run out of battery. It can just be for interest, and that is a beautiful thing. I have a 10-year-old, and that fought me for years to learn how to read. I backed off for a bit, and now he's coming to me wanting to learn to read. And that's the secret. That's the secret. I keep saying, you know what? If he's 16 and can't read, we have a problem. But an 8 to to 12-year-old doesn't, or even a 5 to 12-year-old, they will read when they want to, period. And if there's no reason for them to read in their lives, they're not going to pick it up. And it's the same as anything else that you're teaching your kids. If they can't see how it applies today, they won't learn it because it's pointless, because it's a waste of time, because they have other things they want to be doing. So when you're homeschooling, you need to make sure that what you're teaching is something they can apply in their lives today. I wait for history. We'll do the history we teach young children is their own personal history, mom and dad's history, grandma, grandpa's history. We may or may not go past that because until they're ready to understand what I can tell they're ready to move into further when grandma and grandpa's history makes sense to them and they can see what happened in that. And then they start asking questions and then we'll move backwards. But what I found is you teach your child their history and what existed during that time, what inventions are happening in their lifetime, what changes have been made. Then you go to mom and dad and you say, and you kind of remove like, okay, when mom and dad were little, your age, we didn't have this, we didn't have this, we didn't have this. These are all new things. This is what the presidents at mom and dad's time. This is what was going on in mom's and dad's time. And you help them write that up. And then you go to grandma and grandpa. And you talk about grandma and grandpa were babies too once and where they were born and who they were and what life was like for them and what they didn't have. And what you're doing is slowly removing, because you're slowly showing them backwards how it works, how history works. A child who doesn't understand they have a history will never understand history. So what you're doing is you're showing them, and then you're studying the wars and the things like that as they pertain to their family members, and your children will absorb that history so much better. But it's important for them to see it that way. Like, you know how you have a kid and they're like, hey mom, was there electricity when you were a baby? Because they don't get that there's 100 years and they don't fathom 100 years. But when you go back and say, okay, mom and dad were born from this age to this age, and you write it out on the wall, you create a chart, mom and dad, and this is what they did, and grandma and grandpa, and this is what they did. And so in the meantime, you're doing family history, you're doing ancestry, but you're also studying history. To me, history has been so badly misplaced. If you just, let's study World War I. Okay, but why? What happened? What caused those things to happen? When was that in my life? How does it pertain to me now? What does it affect? How does it affect me? Those are things that history should be taught, not just, okay, World War I was in this age and so. It needs to apply. And it's like reading, it needs to apply. Math, it needs to apply. This is why so many people struggle with algebra, because they don't see the application. Algebra is very applicable in life. Children need algebra because it teaches you how to solve a problem. It teaches you that I have all this information, but I'm missing this piece. How do I figure out what the piece is? And so when your children are learning algebra, if you show them that's what's happening and they're starting to see it as a puzzle that needs to be solved instead of a math problem that they hate, algebra and math are puzzles that need to be solved, and your children will start to fall in love with math when they see it as a puzzle to be solved, a problem to solve, not math. Do you see what I mean on that? Does that help at all with maybe some struggles you're having with your children and what they will or will not learn? Is any of that helpful, I hope? Thank you for all those hearts, by the way. That's so sweet. Breakfast. I had leg day. Gotta have my breakfast. Just protein shake, guys. And it's Fruity Pebbles protein shake, and it's yummy. I'm trying to do this thing right now where I'm just trying to make sure I have enough protein in my body, because I'm starting to lose hair and I'm starting to lose energy, and I'm 47 years old and I'm needing to get healthier. And so I've been learning about the lack of protein. So now I'm trying to get 150 grams of protein a day. That is so hard. So hard. So here's my first 50. I got 20 in here with collagen, and I got 20 in here, and I'm literally shaking both. I'm learning some new things recently about different learning styles. Oh, good. Did you know that inside our roadmap, we actually have a few links on how you can, like, they're little tests for you. There's a link for mom, and there's a link for your kids that you can put them through and find out what your kids' learning styles are. I find it's vital for really good learning. Our oldest child was so verbal. She was bilingual because we speak Spanish at home. She loved all music. She could just pick up something and do it. But child number 2 Verbal was not her strength, but boy, she could, at 8, was asking to change the battery in the car. She was mechanically based. She could build anything. She could create anything. She could beautify anything. And then child 3 came along. And so it's interesting. All 5 of my children have different learning styles. Not one is the same. Some are mixed with others, but we've had to rediscover each child different learning styles. Not one is the same. Some are mixed with others, but we've had to rediscover each child and their need, and then create their plan, their homeschool plan accordingly. And that's what we do. Yeah, go in and get that roadmap and go test those out. I think you'll like it. Hopefully they're working. Every once in a while they stop working and I have to go in, and anyway, let me know if the links aren't working, okay? They should. I check it often. I focused on what styles I thought they were, but learning they may each have their own. Yeah, I had the same problem. I was like, I think you're this, and so we're going to do that. And it turned out that I wasn't necessarily as accurate as I thought. So if you do want to go in and really like do that test, go get that link. Because yeah, there might be a little more mixed than you think, and you can develop. Like if there's one style, like I have my style of learning and my child has a different one, you can still take on each other's learning styles a little bit, because I need to know what my learning style is. Moms need to know what their learning style is, because you will naturally teach in that style. But if your child is receiving that learning and not receiving it because it's like the love language book. Have you guys read the 5 love languages? They have one now for children too. I highly recommend it for all parents. Get the 5 love languages for your children. It's the same idea with learning. If I'm teaching in my learning language, but that's not your language, you're going to have a harder time learning that. So I am very artistic. I like to see things, analytical. I have to see pictures. Whereas I have 2 children who are very mechanically based. I don't get mechanics. They want to sit down and do Legos with me. I cannot figure out Legos. They freak me out. They don't freak me out. My brain does not work with Legos. I can't see this mess and turn it into something. Whereas several of my children are like, they see it and they put it together. But they're also my puzzlers. They'll sit and do puzzles and brain games, and they love those apps that really make you think and test your IQ. So all great things. Anyway, so I am going to head out, hoping this is helpful for you guys today. Let me know if you are needing any help with your homeschooling. That is why my homeschool village is here. We're here to pay it forward. We had homeschool moms who helped us get through the first decade of homeschooling. And especially I had one helped us get through the first decade of homeschooling. And especially I had one friend specifically, her name is Rosalie. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I'm out of battery. I'm losing connection. The sun's coming in. So yeah, single mom of 7. Love to hear that you're homeschooling. Make sure you come join our group inside my homeschool, or go click on the link in the bio. Get the free roadmap that will give you all kinds of resources and help. And then come join our membership or our group and just come and talk to us. It's free to join the community. Come join the community. I'm going live again today at 1:00 Pacific time. Mountain time. And we do giveaways. So make sure you show up so that you can get your giveaways. Always a good homeschool resource. So thanks for being here, and we will see you later.